Hi folks, this is your NWIS Planning Outlook with the details toward the weekend and the latest longer range patterns. At the moment we're still dominated by a fairly low pressure with some rather messy weather conditions through these next few days. There's a trough of low pressure over the Atlantic and that's going to swing in for some more wet and windy weather into the weekend. We have zones of high pressure away to the south and to the north, but for the time being we're still staying rather unsettled. It does mean more rain to come, and this is the total accumulation through to the weekend, with the heaviest totals across west and southwestern parts of the Highlands, pretty wet too for Cumbria and West Wales, saturated ground conditions and the risk of some further flooding in places. Less rain toward the eastern side of the Pennines and comparatively lower totals toward the far north of the Highlands as well. Temperatures are a little above average across England and Wales through this period, close to average overall for Scotland, a little bit cooler in northern regions. There's some cold air over Scandinavia that keeps trying to be drawn towards us, but overall we're looking more to the Atlantic influence during the week ahead. Temperatures are near or just below freezing across most of the higher Scottish summits at the current time, and it'll stay that way for the days ahead. On Wednesday, the lowest values of the freezing level will be found across the northern regions, maybe even down to 800 or 900 metres locally in the northern Cairngorms through the morning time at least. That value staying at around 1,000 metres or slightly higher, particularly near the west coast it will be higher through Thursday, but still inland 900 to 1,000 metres is likely to be your freezing level. Friday just a touch higher overall. There may be a touch of frost in a few of the glens where skies are clear, but nothing too significant overall later this week. Into the weekend, and we've got a push of some milder air coming in from the southwest ahead of a frontal system arriving. That will see temperatures rise above freezing point to the highest tops by a few degrees through Saturday and into Sunday, with any of the lying snow that exists on the higher tops in Scotland tending to melt and get washed away as some rain occurs as well. So milder and wetter on the ground through this weekend. Looking at the detail in the shorter term, this is the situation on Wednesday of this week, and we've got some areas of rain associated with some remnants of old fronts that are still draped across Scotland and northern England. The white colours on this chart indicating the extent of cloud, the blue is the precipitation, which will be falling as some sleet and snow over the Munros in the Highlands. Fairly patchy but quite persistent across many central and northern parts, drifting into more eastern areas of the Highlands as well. And a band of rain quite frequent and some heavier bursts near the west coast around the southwesternmost parts of the Highlands into Dumfries and Galloway, and that extending into northern England as some patchy rain and drizzle, quite persistent over the western fells in the Lake District. Just notice toward the far north of the Highlands, though, where we have the darker colours on this chart, the greyer, blacker colours, that would be indicating some breaks in the cloud and some sunshine coming through. So the far north during Wednesday seeing some good conditions, some bright skies, some sunshine through much of the daytime, best generally through the afternoon, and that rain and snow over the central Highlands tending to fizzle out with time. Some rather windy conditions much of the day as well over northern England, with gale force speeds across the high tops in the Lake District, but much lighter winds overall for a good part of the Highlands. Thursday is a rather messy weather situation with much complexity between various frontal systems and centres of low pressure. One zone is away toward the west of Scotland, which will try and push some areas of rain and drizzle into western coastal fringes, but inland areas for the Highlands more likely escaping dry. Some patchy drizzle may get drawn onto some easternmost hills just for a time. Further south, a complicated little area of low pressure over southern England brings the risk of some rain into Wales. The extent of that is still open to some question, but the threat of some fairly persistent rain for a time at least here, and that may push into the Peak District even as well if that front is just a bit further north than shown on this chart. For the lakes and for the Yorkshire Dales, the North Pennines, more likely just escaping dry, but some patchy rain may just fringe in from the Irish Sea. The wind quite variable then. We've got mostly light winds in many places, but could be a bit stronger across Wales if that rain is around as well. Friday sees something of a lull in conditions, fairly light winds overall. We've got some mist and fog patches and some banks of low cloud that will likely be around in the morning, a few drizzly showers in places as well. That should tend to fade with some bright skies coming through, some sunshine in places, generally best toward the east, with temperatures just lifting a touch during the daytime after a cool start. The frontal system out toward the west will be encroaching in, so by the evening and the night some rain will turn up and winds will strengthen across many of the mountains. Wet and windy conditions for most places on Saturday, I'm afraid, with an Atlantic frontal system sweeping through. We'll see a band of rain across Scotland, followed by clusters of showers from the southwest. There may be a brief lull in that rainfall for a while over the Highlands, but generally cloud shrouding the mountains most of the daytime. For England and Wales, it could be that front is trailing through for much of the day, so a conveyor belt of rainfall, particularly for Wales, could be heavy for much of the day. On and off, at least for the Lake District, but could be rather heavy and persistent at times as well. Temperatures overall will be a bit milder, but it will be rather academic with the strength of the wind, making it feel cooler. Sunday keeps low pressure in charge. Naturally, some uncertainty on the exact positioning of that low, but it's likely to be somewhere toward the west of Scotland, with areas of rain quite persistent and heavy at times over the western mountains, a bit patchier further east across the Highlands, but still some rain and fairly low cloud generally in the forecast. England and Wales, broadly showery, windy for all, maybe lighter wind speeds for the Highlands, but keep an eye on the forecast details. The greater risk of gales looks to be focused just further to the south. The general pattern into next week suggests that low pressure is to the north and around Scandinavia, a ridge of high pressure just trying to build from the west, which gives a slightly different pattern regime to what we've had in recent times. We're looking at more west to northwesterly winds prevailing for the week as a whole, which will give some variations in temperatures day to day. On balance, things will be on the milder side of average, particularly across England and Wales, but Scotland fairly close to average with some chillier days drawn around from the northwest at times. Total rainfall for next week looking like this, and it's western mountains that pick up on the greatest amounts. Western Scotland in particular, from Lochaber to Skye, looking to be the wettest of all. Lower totals proportionally further towards the east. Finally, a quick look at the story further ahead, and as we swap from November into December, it's still dominated by westerly winds. High pressure to the south may just build in a little bit further, so at least for England and Wales it may be that there's some drier weather around, some quieter conditions with some mist and fog and some overnight frost. For Scotland, still more changeable, although lower rainfall totals than previously, still looking toward the westerly flow for bringing some occasional rain at least into west and northwestern regions. Temperatures relatively mild through that time. Further into the first 10 days of December, and if anything, the wind flow is a bit more west by northwesterly, circulating around low pressure to the north. That's bringing fairly showery conditions and something a bit cooler, with temperatures near to freezing on the mountains then, with most of the frequent showers toward the west and north of Scotland. Overall then, it's still fairly unsettled for the weeks ahead. As usual, you can find all your local details for the short term on our website. For today, that's your planning outlook. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.